Canadian Christians have been subjected to the most brutal psyop of the past couple of centuries when they are consistently told that they are colonizers, that they stole this land, that they have something to be ashamed of, that Canada is a white supremacist nation. An honest retelling of history would include the colonization by Islamists of vast swaths of the Earth's globe, whether we're talking about Egypt, whether we're talking about Syria, whether we're talking about Northern Africa. These were all Christian countries that were absolutely brutally colonized using the leftist terminology by Islamists. Yet Western education, and particularly in Canada, never once mentions the brutal colonization of majority Christian countries, which goes on to this day. You'll hear nonstop on CBC, CTV talking about the poor Iranians, the poor Palestinians just being bombarded by the West. Will you hear one mention of what's going on with Nigerian Christians, where a multiple of 8 people have passed away, that passed away combined in Iran and Palestine? Hundreds of thousands slaughtered by Boko Haram? No, you will not hear a peep about that in the West. Our country and the NDP convention woke me to this larger than anything else has been brainwashed by a group of elites that want Western countries, and in particular Canadians, to feel ashamed of their history, ashamed of who they are, with the ultimate goal of destroying what is Christian Canada. This country was founded on Christian values, British parliamentary law, the Magna Carta from the 1200s, common law. These are not compatible with the 55 Muslim majority countries, with Sharia law, with a totalitarian ideology that demands total submission, that calls for taqiyya. Look it up. You are allowed to lie to the infidel. That calls for brutal violence against infidels. And for those of you that claim that Christianity is all about turning the other cheek, read your Bible again. When necessary, Jesus stood up for himself. Absolutely. They are attempting to brainwash the entirety of their West to tell the Western people that their past is something to be ashamed of. Well, totally whitewashing atrocities by Islamists across the world, who are actually, it's the second largest religion in the entire world. It's a massive group of people. It's not some oppressed group like these psychopathic lefties try to tell you. And their colonization has been absolutely brutal. When you read through the Quran, Muhammad, the way he treated infidels was with no mercy whatsoever. Time after time after time, you see infidels taken out in the most brutal fashion. You see cleric after cleric in that religion calling for jihad against the West, yet all you hear about in our Canadian media is so-called Islamophobia, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a word that fascists use to shut down legitimate criticism of a religion that, on the Global Terrorism Index, which is a totally non-biased organization that ranks the top 100 terror organizations in the world, 9 of the top 10 on the GTI are Islamist organizations, as well as 90 of the top 100. For those of you who haven't paid attention, this weekend, there is armed security outside Christian and Jewish places of worship all over the place. The media will just tell you, oh, this is just the new Canada. There's nothing to be alarmed about. Why do you think that is? It's because we've allowed in millions of people into this country who hate us, and you are told that you are some sort of a hater, a racist, a xenophobe, whatever the word of the day is among the mentally disabled left, which is what it is. If the NDP convention did not open your eyes to how disturbed these leftists are now, nothing else will. They will call you a racist, a fascist, a xenophobe, even worse words, to attempt to shut you off. If you notice, they never actually rebut the arguments. When you bring up the brutal colonization of essentially the entirety of Africa, the entirety of the Middle East, Christian majority country after Christian majority country by Islamists, They have no response because those are the facts. They're the absolute facts. When you mention the fact that Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl, Aisha, they will shut you down. They'll say, oh, you're Islamophobic. No, in a free and open society, this is about debating the ideas. And the Quran, time and time again, tells Islamists how to deal with so-called infidels, which are the Christians and the Jews. But in the Western world, we have been so brainwashed by a group of elites that are clearly self-hating that they want us to just sit down with our hands down and allow millions of people who hate the West to pour into our countries. Well, we're just supposed to sit down and shut the hell up about it. What do you think that Canada is going to look like in 5, 10 years? The radical transformation that we've already seen with a feckless, spineless leader like Mark Carney, who has the gall to get out there and say Muslim values are Canadian values. Can you be more specific, Mark? Which of the Muslim values do you think would best serve your LGBTQ child? Would you like to send them to Saudi Arabia? Would you like to send them to Iran? Tell me how they're treated there. We're psyops. The Anglophones and Francophones who arrived in Canada arrived to a frozen wasteland. Go look up the society that existed prior to them arriving. It was brutal infighting among the Indigenous. Now, did the Indigenous help build this country? Absolutely, with 100% certainty. That's true. But the Anglophones, Francophones, the English, Scottish, French, and Irish who arrived here 1867 and the years before that and built this civilization created something unmatched in human history. The belief system, the structure, the governmental coast to coast structure had not existed before. It was built on Irish, Scottish, English, and French belief system. That's a fact. From 1867 to 1971, this country was 98% white. It was only when Pierre Elliott Trudeau introduced this Multicultural Act in 1971 that things changed. So the idea that they're going to come to and also say that immigration today is the exact same thing as what the settlers arrived to in 1867 is a complete ahistorical joke. Stop the left wing, who I hope more and more people are waking up to their mental illness, to the fact that they are ahistoric, have no idea what they're talking about. When they gaslight you and say this is a white supremacist nation, this is a nation of colonizer, ask them why did they never mention the colonization of Christian country after Christian country by Islamists? Ask them about what's going on in Nigeria right now. I know you nonstop want to talk about Palestine and Iran. What's going on across Africa right now? What went on in Syria? What went on in Egypt? Why were those Christian countries taken over? And why does the West, Canada in particular, as well as the UK, look incredibly similar to what's happening there? If you're so concerned with colonization, what you'll realize under the hood is that very frequently it's actually anti-white hatred. That's what really sits under the hood of this colonialist Marxist worldview. Again, very resentful people who are angry at life and they want somebody to blame, many of them self-hating. I'm going to be filing a lawsuit against Bill C9 as soon as it passes, the most anti-free speech bill we've ever seen in the Western world, and it must be combated with absolutely everything we have. If you don't have a free tongue, you are not a human being. The fundamental pillar of Western civilization is every Canadian's right to speak their mind, speak what they honestly feel. If you're interested in supporting, hit the Stripe link. I so appreciate everybody who supports. Free speech is the pillar of our civilization. They want to shut us up. They don't want us to be allowed to point out what's happening in this country as well as across the West because they know the truth ultimately wins. They know the truth is not on their side. They know mass immigration over the long term is incredibly detrimental to this country. So they want to be able to shut you up, yell, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're not worthy of being in the public square because the truth is on our side. We need to keep shouting it from the rooftops. I'll be live on YouTube tomorrow night at 7, talking more about who the real colonizers are. Stop being brainwashed by these far left lunatics. Go rewatch the NDP convention. These are the people that want to govern us. If these people are in charge for another couple of years, this country will be gone. The NDP is not very different from the Liberals. You look at what's going on in the House of Commons. There are traitors in the House of Commons literally working for foreign interests. Canadians need to wake up.